got to say that the journey that we've been on has been long, it's been perilous, it's been incredibly ingratiating, where people have been so kind and compassionate and meeting the needs of our displaced citizens. But now we have a place called home. And when people come home, I am so excited to be able to give them the warmest welcome possible. And when we think about all of that wonderful support that we've received when we're out of the community, what I have to ask our citizens now is that when you come home and you know it's going to be different, and some of us have fared better than others, I know that we were a strong, good-hearted community before, and I know that because we've received so much, what I hope is that when we all come home, we help and support each other through this next phase of our journey.
All I can say is welcome back, family and friends and citizens of Fort McMurray. I'm so proud to have our home open again so we can get back to the business of life and enjoy ourselves. I would just say this, please act safely, act maturely, make sure that we do things right, and help your neighbors, help your friends, because we're all going to need to be in this together, because we are in this together. So if I can do anything to assist you, send me a message on Facebook or Twitter, or just give me a call. I'm here for you. That's what I do for a living, and I'm more than happy and proud to do it for you. So please let us know whatever we can do for you, and just take your time, enjoy yourself, and be safe.
The Birchwood Trails, beautiful, breathtaking, and exquisite. Yet if the Fort McMurray wildfire reached these trails back in early May, it could have meant the end of Timberlea and Thickwood. It was an act of heroism which protected these trails.
You know, Birchwood Trails is a main priority for us, and we were getting beat all over town. The first day, we're getting beat all over town, but we will not lose Birchwood Trails.
Had the wildfire reached the trails, 60% of the city would have been lost. It would have been devastating. Sources within the RMWB had already assumed it was about to happen and were bracing for the unthinkable.
The risk of Birchwood going up, I don't know what the number would be for loss. It just wasn't an option. We just could not lose Birchwood Trails.
So the firefighters fought the fire for 2 straight days, and with the fire just about to break the entry point to the trails, the fire department had to coordinate a plan with the aerial water bombers. But the pilots couldn't see a target, so a little piece of fabric ended up being the hero.
The pilots on the airplanes, they needed a target to drop on. And the guys took their helmets off their head, and they're yellow, and they threw it into the trees. The tankers made another pass, still didn't see it. So then I just threw I just threw the order out there. You need to create a target for these guys. Through their own initiative, they come up, and yeah, there was a blanket that we hold in all the trucks, and they put it in there about 300 yards. They splayed it out, and fortunate enough, the third pass on the tanker group, of course, that was going to be their last pass because they were running low on fuel. So this was it. This was do or die, and the guys made a target large enough that they didn't miss, and the tanker drops started happening. Boof, boof, boof. And saved Birchwood Trails that day.
Call it motivation or innovation, a battle was won at the Birchwood Trails by the Fort McMurray Fire Department. Unfortunately, the beast destroyed the red tarp, but it will be a symbol for this city for many years to come.
The Birchwood Trails was our trophy. The Birchwood Trails was our motivation. We hadn't lost our Birchwood Trails.
For the unsung heroes and being Fort McMurray strong, I'm Doug Roxburgh. A lot of facilities are reopening their doors, including McDonald Island and the Suncor Community Leisure Center and Shell Place. Join with me is CEO Annette Antoniak. And there are some big announcements here at McDonald Island, aren't there?
There are. We're delighted to be open, reopened today. So our aquatic center is open, our fitness facility is open, our badminton courts, and we hope to open the climbing wall and the squash courts next Monday. And Zach Community Center will be open on June 20th as well, which is we're really excited about. But the biggest news is that it's all free for 2 weeks. Our golf course opened last Wednesday, and that also is 2 weeks free golfing, unheard of. And then the other program that we rolled out today to huge success, we were actually sold out before noon, was our My Camps that is proudly sponsored by Scotiabank.
Okay, before you get to that announcement, we're going to talk in depth about the Scotiabank announcement. Okay, I'm just going to leave the crowd hanging on the edge of its seat for that. I just want to get back to the 2 weeks free for all residents. They can just pop on down?
They can. They'll be given a 2-week registration. That will last them, obviously, the full 2 weeks, and the same with golf.
Well, that's fantastic, because I know over this past month and a half, we've all been getting a little pudgy around the waist. So having those recreational facilities open is a huge relief. But let's get back to the Scotiabank announcement for the My Camps and My Kids. What can these kids expect? Because I know the camps are already sold out. Unfortunate for residents, I get it. You want your kids in those camps, but it's great that these camps are being available through Scotiabank.
They are, and I just want to qualify that. That was the first round of registration that is full. We have the second round of registration that'll happen next week, and I want everybody to know that we're continuing to work with Scotiabank, and we might be coming up with some new programs. So people need to stay tuned.
I'm glad you clarified that, because the news filters very fast, and having that second round of registration open for the kids of Wood Buffalo is phenomenal. Thank you very much for joining us, Annette. Before we go, anything else you want to add?
There will be other things that'll be happening that we'll be announcing over the next week that are pretty exciting for the residents of Fort McMurray.
The cliffhanger is there, Fort McMurray, and it's at the beautiful Shell Place in the Suncor Community Leisure Center here at McDonald Island. We have more re-entry information right here on Fort McMurray Strong.
What do you got? I just got one person, so small, one woman. Okay.
It's a pretty amazing feeling that we've been waiting for, working for about 2 weeks now, and it's going pretty well.
The Wood Buffalo Food Bank reopened its doors on June 11th for the first time since the evacuation, but not without anticipating a high number of clients expecting to utilize its services.
We're preparing for 1,000 families this month, where we've been kind of averaging around 500 families a month prior to this. We're hoping that doesn't happen. We're hoping that people are in a good enough position to be able to take care of themselves, but we're also we're preparing for that, and we're telling people, you know, like, put your pride aside. You've suffered enough. Don't make food another hardship for your family and yourself.
Higher than normal client usage isn't rare for the executive director. Johnson saw a large increase in families utilizing the food bank services in 2014-2015 due to the economic downturn and the drop in the price of oil.
We had experienced a 72% increase in 2015 over 2014. January, February, and March, we were between kind of a 40 and 50% increase each month over the same month last year. It was already really tough to do what we were doing. We had extended our hours because clients were waiting 2 weeks for an appointment. So we'd increased our staff team and extended to 12 hours a day, 5 days a week. And so it was already a really tough situation.
To make a tough situation worse, upon arrival to the food bank on May 28th, Johnson and her staff had to throw away any food item that wasn't in a can. The team discarded over 53,000 items of food. But luckily for the social service, they've had a little help from down south to prepare for the influx of clients.
Food banks throughout the province have been raising food for us through the whole month of May and continue to do so. And so we actually have a warehouse of food in Leduc, a 30,000 square foot warehouse that we have access to. We also have a lot of corporate food partners who are sitting on stock for us. The Calgary Food Bank is sitting on stock for us, and the Edmonton Food Bank is sitting on stock. That will be shipped up the highway as we need it.
3 tractor trailers of food have already made the trip up Highway 63 to the Wood Buffalo Food Bank. And in regards to the expected rise in usage, the food bank will reassess the situation in August. For Fort McMurray Strong, I'm Craig Momney.
Philanthropy is already alive and well in the streets of Fort McMurray, as many are giving what they can to others who need help the most. Adults usually have an easier time fending for themselves and kids, so it's the children who are receiving the love from many people in the community. It all started with one little boy with one little bike from Brooks, Alberta, who wanted to help.
My son said, "Mom, can you take this bike to Fort McMurray. And I don't want anything for it, but just bring it. So I brought it, and he was, concerned that the schools were closed, there was no parks, the houses were burned, kids' bikes were gone, their friends were displaced, and he just wanted to get a kid out on a bike.
It's hard to describe the feeling of a kid on a bike, and even though I'm old and I got a bad memory, I remember what it was like, the freedom that you felt when you got on a bike and you're out riding around with your friends. And when Debbie decided she wanted to do this, I said, all right, do it, I'll fix bikes, I'll do whatever it takes to help make this happen.
Fort McMurray has always been known to be one of the most giving communities in all of Canada, and despite the tragedy, the motto continues. Law enforcement officials have also stepped up and even stopped what they're doing to also lend a hand.
Kids are already coming in, they're grabbing their bike, and it's absolutely awesome to see.
You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you guys so much.
You're very welcome.
Can you say thank you?
Everybody's pleasure.
Some youngsters may not realize the severity of the damage until they're older, so keeping them entertained, active, and happy is a small step in the recovery process. For Debbie Perini and Lloyd Renton, they know the region of Wood Buffalo is a happy place to live, and they want to pay it forward because their own flesh and blood would do the same.
Our son, he was saving other people's homes while his burnt to the ground. And he's not the only one. There's lots and lots that has that story. I can't imagine the grief that those people are going through. So if we can help in some small way to help relieve that grief and stress, yes, only too happy to do it, you betcha.
You just have to give back. Whatever you can do, if there's something you can do, you just do it. It's just what you do. It's the right thing to do.
Watching the community roll back one wheel at a time, I'm Doug Roxburgh, and together we're
Fort McMurray strong. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
You doing good?
I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Returning home to see the devastation firsthand is hard. For some, it's about getting closure. For others, it's about preparing for a different future. For Shaw employee James Starrett and wife Shannon, returning to Beacon Hill was emotionally draining.
You see videos on Facebook and different postings, and you really don't believe what you're seeing until you're standing in front of it. A lot different than it used to be.
Coming back to a community you love after over a month away is hard in the easiest of circumstances. This is not one of those circumstances, and everyone will be reliving their journey back on May 3rd on how they heard about the wildfire, how they escaped it, and how they survived.
This happened so quick. We work a kilometer down the road on the same street here at the Shaw Cable Building. Evacuate the office. I get to my kids at the school right beside the Shaw office, and there's already fire across the road. Impatiently waiting to try and pick up my kids and get them out of school, and there's fire across the road. You know, we run down here, let the kids out. They run in to grab what they can, and about 12 minutes later we're leaving. There's fire. My son's yelling there's fire right on the road here. And we leave. It's been a hell of a month. It's 34 days ago, do you believe that? We're finally just getting to step back here and actually take a look. So surreal.
Residents in restricted areas will get time to sift through their personal belongings with the support of Team Rubicon. Every little item has become more precious than the last time it was viewed, and every little item brings up a memory that may have been forgotten.
Yeah, you're seeing little things in there. You knew where they sat before and where they're sitting now. It's crazy. Yeah.
Like, we were trying to think about the things that we miss the most. And for me, it's our Christmas tree. It's a palm tree. Right. And all the ornaments are from places that we've been. Yeah,
yeah.
That sucks. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can see our kids' bikes at the front door there, all melted down. Oh my God.
At the end of the day, these aren't just things, they're memories. They're a reminder of the life we've led. For James and Shannon, these things have become a reminder of the region they've grown to love.
We absolutely love this community. We'll rebuild.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful here. We've really enjoyed everything Fort McMurray's offered us so far, and it's a small step back for what will be a really amazing journey as we move forward. And you know, our kids are doing really well on the island right now, and hope to bring them back over the next few weeks, and they can be a part of our journey with us here in 2016 to see what the future looks like with us.
Rebuilding will not be an easy task. It will take time and patience, something James and Shannon, like so many others in Fort McMurray, are willing to sacrifice in order to pursue this task. Together, we are Fort McMurray Strong. I am Doug Roxburgh.
Nerdvana manager Ashley Lawrenson was evacuated along with the rest of Fort McMurray on May the 3rd. But it was on May the 4th, which happens to be International Star Wars Day, that together with a friend, she combined her love for the region and the movie franchise to create a symbol for a community in crisis.
May the Fort Be With You is a design that my friend Satara and I came up with after seeing the hashtag May the Fort Be With You on May the 4th instead of like May the 4th Be With You, like the Star Wars pun. And Satara got in touch with me and she was like, hey, why don't we turn this into a t-shirt and try and raise money for Red Cross?
The shirt's emblem combines the logos of the regional municipality of Wood Buffalo and the Star Wars Rebellion, along with the words, May the Fort Be With You. The shirt was an instant hit and a prosperous fundraiser.
We've gone through literally hundreds of t-shirts. We ended up donating $5,225 on the 30th to make sure it got in before the deadline, and we still have money coming in like almost every day.
To some, it's just a shirt. But for Lawrenson, it's a symbol of unity among McMurrayites, as well as a therapeutic project which took her concentration off the recent events back home.
I was glued to the news for days, just watching about it. So actually coming away from it and like doing something else that was, you know, like occupying my mind for a little while was actually felt really healthy at the time, as well as like, I just think it's so important for us to do whatever we can. And I mean, the shirt, it shows solidarity, right? Like I've seen other people wearing it like in Calgary and in Edmonton and, you know, giving them a wave and they're like, hey, nice shirt. And I'm like, yeah, nice shirt to you too, kind of thing.
The shirt is still available and can be found on Lawrenson's Etsy page. By purchasing the shirt, Lawrenson says it's more than just a contribution to relief efforts.
It's a donation going to Red Cross, but you also get a little memento to remind us of like what happened and to show support for all of the people of Fort McMurray too.
For Fort McMurray Strong, I'm Craig Momney. During the evacuation, some of us were fortunate enough to get out of town with our vehicles, while others had to leave them behind. If it survived the fires, it may look exactly how you left it, ready to be driven. But just to be sure, we stopped by Legacy Dodge to learn about what you should look for prior to starting your vehicle for the first time in over a month.
A walk around would be good on the vehicle, just to right from driver's door around back and check the tires, check the paint. You know, most people are going to want to get their vehicle washed, a good wash if there's any ash or heat damage to the paint or the clear coat or anything.
But even if the outside of the vehicle looks unscathed, it doesn't mean what makes the vehicle run hasn't been damaged.
With any vehicle that's been sitting for 30 days after the wildfire's been through town, probably one of the best things to look for is when you pop the hood, you want to check your belt. You want to check your hoses, make sure there's no damage to anything underneath the hood. Check your dash panel, the cowl panel between the hood and the windshield. If it's full of ash, you want to be really careful.
This is where most of the air for the inside cabin comes from, and it can get caught up and pulled into your fan, which actually, this cabin air filter, in this vehicle, the cabin air stopped most of it, but this should be taken off and cleaned, and after it's cleaned, then it should be good to use. So it's always a good idea just to have small things like this checked after a fire, and it only takes 5 minutes or just a look inside to see if there's any buildup of ash.
And while the cabin air filter cleans what you breathe while you're occupying the vehicle, there's a separate air filter which protects the engine and the way it performs. So if I don't change this, how can that damage my engine?
Well, you're looking at increased fuel economy because your engine is not breathing as well as it should. Air-fuel ratios go down. It can cause starvation of air to certain components. As you can see, this vehicle is equipped with an onboard computer system which is attached on top of the air box. There's not proper airflow that can cause overheating and extensive damage, especially after an event like this where ash gets involved and there's the smoke is really stinky. The smoke really can't do a lot. It stinks, but the ash can cause damage and it can bypass the filter at some point.
Even after you've done a thorough check on your vehicle from the filters to the tires and even all the hoses and you're still unsure about its condition, you can always contact a mechanic or your insurance adjuster to give you peace of mind. For Fort McMurray Strong, I'm Craig Momney.
Air service in any community is an absolutely vital component of a community's economic viability, and so we've been prevented from doing commercial service for obvious reasons because of the firefighting for over 5 weeks. So the phased re-entry of that service is just a huge milestone for the community and for our airport authority and all our partners.
Commercial air service is back in Fort McMurray as many residents are making their return home. The main terminal was a main priority for the first responders and is functioning once again despite some hangars and facilities being lost near the old terminal. On the first commercial flight back into the city, the aircraft became very quiet as people prepared for re-entry.
As we approached the airport and people could see out the window what sort of the magnitude of what had happened here, it was quite quiet and somber. As people looked out, then you could see houses that had been lost.
You could hear a pin drop on the aircraft as it circled to land. People who were looking out the window were seeing from the air on a nice clear day the results of the disaster, and it was quite an impact for them.
When you look out there, you see everything that used to be, full of trees, and where it jumped the river and everything like that. It's pretty.
Operations have taken a hit financially over the past month and a half. Instead of taking in approximately $3 million in the month of May, it will be zero. Insurance will help mitigate some of that cost, and operations should be back in full swing in the coming months.
And I'm expecting by November, December, we should be back to a more normal operation, the kind of growth perhaps that we saw in the last few years.
As the day wears on, we'll have flights coming in from Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, and Toronto. And, we're eager to get back to normal. Obviously, we'll be working with the local officials because there are still some restrictions because they've got important work to do. They're still fighting some fires, and we'll work with them. But we'll get back to our regular schedule as quickly as possible.
As more residents look to return, the Court facilities look to continue to restore their operations. It will take time, and it will take patience. Together, we are Fort McMurray Strong. I am Doug Roxburgh.
We're never going to forget. It's going to be something we're never going to ever forget. But in the same token, it's going to drive us to put things back together that much quicker.
Chris Hampton is one of many Shaw employees helping to get services back online in the affected areas after the wildfire. And he was eager to get back to work.
It was my chance to give back to it. Not as in a Shaw thing. I mean, that was part of it, but as my whole life, 16 years I've been here, and this has given me the most I've ever had throughout my life. So it was the one time I could give back to this community.
Hampton is part of a small team of 32 in Fort McMurray. They all safely evacuated the town on May 3rd, but not without loss. The homes of 4 employees, including Hampton's, burned down during the blaze. Hampton may have lost everything, but his spirit is still intact.
I'm not the type of guy that's gonna sit around and say that's not my job or leave it to somebody else. It's like, hey, we're here, let's do this, let's do what we can. And like I said, it's my chance to pay Fort McMurray back for all the things that it's done for me.
A lot of those people who lost their houses were the first to raise their hand and say, I want to get back, I want to help rebuild. We need to be there for our customers. And I think it was important for everybody to get back and help out as much as they could.
Known for their assistance in recent disasters like the floods in southern Alberta, Hampton says Shaw has been a big part in supporting those affected in Fort McMurray, and feels the company he works for looks at his customers more like a community than just a name on an invoice.
Shaw really sees our community as a family, not as individuals and people that just give us money for a product, right? I think we're a little bit more invested into our community than that, and that's what I love about this place.
A sentiment shared by fellow Shaw employee Colleen O'Hara.
We know what Fort McMurray is. Fort McMurray is not just the oil sands. Fort McMurray is a community. It's a home. Whether we have a home or not, welcome home and Fort Mac is back is so much more than just work. You know, it's community, it's pride, it's our homes. This is home, and this is where we belong, and this is where we will rebuild.
Sometimes people ought to think this is a transient town. You know, people come here for the work, but it's not like that. It's more than that. It's a family. It's a community, like an actual community. Like a lot of people come from other places and say they have a community, but when we overall look at things, I think that a lot of people would understand this is probably a better sense of a community than anything else.
Continuing to support those returning to the region, for Fort McMurray Strong, I'm Craig Momney.
We want to send a representative to each home and business. When we get there, we're going to have them do a safety inspection of all the gas appliances at that location. So they'll go through everything, make sure it's working properly, then we'll relight that customer. The way that we're asking people to contact us is through atcoresponds.com. They can fill out a form. They fill out that form. It goes into our call center and our dispatch. There are other ways though. We recognize not everybody has internet access, so they can also visit the welcome centers in Fort McMurray, and we have representatives at each one of those welcome centers to help people through the process, make sure that they get their service restored quickly and safely. So after you submit the request to have us come out and do a relight, put that placard in your window, someplace visible that our staff can see from the street. And as we're going through a neighborhood, if we see that placard, we're going to come to your house and we're going to get you relit. We're doing the exact same thing for businesses. Businesses call in, go through the same process. We'll show up and we will make sure that things are safe. We'll do the inspection and we'll get them back up and running. Well, what it really will help us do is be more efficient at getting all those relights. They'll be able to go into a neighborhood, they'll see the placards, and they'll literally be able to go house by house, which really helps us be more efficient and helps people get their service back sooner. We are working closely to align with the municipality's schedule. So as they let communities back in, we're resourcing to be able to meet the demands of relights in those communities. Over the next week, we're going to have a large number of staff in the area being prepared to get out and visit all of those customers. Our people are trained. This is what they do every day across the province. They're the experts in the field, and we really want to go out. We want to make sure people's homes are safe before they get gas service restored to them. We want to come out and help them do that, and there's not a charge for us to come out and do that for people. Really proud of how everybody across ATCO has come together and supported this, whether it's the people working directly in Fort McMurray or the people back in our other operating centers supporting this. It's been fantastic, and we are really proud of how it's come together, and we've really enjoyed working with the municipality to make this a coordinated response. Really, the best thing people can do is go to atcoresponds.com. It has all the information they're going to need regarding restoring their gas and electrical service in the Fort McMurray area.
We have created this dedicated Shaw TV channel to help Fort McMurray residents stay connected to the latest community news and developments as they return home following the devastating wildfire in May. If you have important information or a story idea, please contact edmmc@sjrb.ca.